Rob, the second game also happening on Saturday night. Why don't you take us through your predictions for that?
Absolutely, Jen. Big game in South African terms. 5:05 at Kings Park. Sharks really look as though on paper they should have the edge over the Highlanders, who will have just made the long haul from New Zealand, so that counts against them. Even if the Sharks have got issues with player management, with some of their players definitely sort of flogged to death and on sort of reserve batteries at this point. But I still think on paper they're putting out a really formidable side. They've only made one change revealed for the game, and that's Kobus Reinach coming in for Charles McLeod at scrum half from the team that very impressively beat the Stormers at Newlands in the last game, which in itself is a feather in the Sharks' cap and something that will be giving them hope that they can keep marching on in the final series, despite the really tough road that they've been given. They did lose, of course, to the Highlanders when the Highlanders came to Durban several weeks ago, but that was really a case of the Sharks just going into a little bit of a switch-off mode. They didn't look, from the start of that game, they just didn't look particularly switched on, and as if they were almost underestimating the Highlanders, which certainly won't be the case this time. You've got to think that, especially with their absolute array of Springbok caps in their pack, I mean, the Highlanders will arrive here without any New Zealand representation in their pack, so that gives you some idea of the task they'll be up against a really steely-looking Sharks team. So my fairly confident tip is the Sharks to perhaps do it by 7 to 9 points. I'm not sure if Garen concurs on that.
Garen, do you agree?
I actually think it's going to be even easier for the Sharks than that. I'm going for sort of the 12 to 14 point margin of victory. As Rob again correctly said, the Highlanders did win in Durban earlier this year, but lightning won't strike twice. I think the Sharks learned their lesson from that game. I stand correct. I think it was the game before they went on tour, and I think they had sort of one eye on their flight already, and they were shocked by the Highlanders. As Rob said correctly, the Sharks pack will have an advantage over their Highlander counterparts. The Highlanders do have some very impressive backline players. I see Ben Smith's back, Aaron Smith, Malachi Fekitoa is playing. They've got this X factor in the backline, but I think the match is going to be won up front, and the Sharks are going to have too much firepower up front, even though they're missing Beeston Tawarira, who obviously didn't pass the fitness test once the team was named this week. So the Sharks to win, march on to the semi-finals of the Super Rugby, which I think might be the end of them, but we'll chat about that next weekend.
All right, well, we'll see you guys next week. Garen, why don't you remind us where we can catch all the live updates?
Sure, if you head over to sport24.co.za, we'll be doing live updates on the matches, and if you're in Durban this weekend, please send your pictures to mysport@sport24.co.za, and we'll include them in our gallery.